Welcome to the Bird's Eye View. We are back right before New Year's, right before the close of the year, and I just wanted to bring up this story because to me, it's kind of unfathomable to think about this kind of stuff can happen. But then when you look around and you wonder why this is evolving and changing, it really makes a lot of sense with our current environment. So the story is this illegal immigrant, Sebastian Zapata, is charged with murder of a woman he set on fire on a New York subway. And this article talks just about the stuff, but there's other ones that are upset that there was a lot of people just watching and a lot of people recording and nobody getting involved to stop any of this or do anything. And I don't know, in this case there's not a lot, they didn't publicize a lot about how long it took or anything like that, but what they did say is that this illegal immigrant came across the border in 2018 in Mexico, and then was sent back in June of 2018, made their way back across the border with Joe Biden's open policy, and then he was sitting on the New York subway train, and he had no contact with this lady before. They didn't know each other before. He just randomly selected this lady who was sleeping on a New York subway train, which is a whole nother thing. I don't know about that. I've been to New York. I've ridden on the subways. I don't really see myself falling asleep on there, but maybe, I don't know, maybe she was just really tired coming home from work or something. I don't really know. But needless to say, she fell asleep. This guy singled her out, set her on fire, and then just watched along with everybody else. And apparently, part of the story was once she was on fire, there were even cops that were walking by and nobody intervened, right? Nobody put her out. Nobody did anything. And that just goes to show you that, especially in a place like New York City, where they are so anti-gun, you are a victim waiting to be victimized because you can't protect yourself, right? They don't want you to have Second Amendment rights there. They don't want you to be able to carry a gun. They don't want you to be able to defend yourself. What they want is for you to be a potential victim. And that's exactly what happened here. You had all these people videotaping with their phones and stuff instead of intervening. You have the cops walking by, not running to get fire extinguishers or anything like that. And this guy just sitting across the bench just watching. I mean, is that where we're at nowadays? And that question right there that's where we're at nowadays is we can't help people, right? And then as I was saying that, I thought about this guy, right? Daniel Penning, found not guilty in the subway chokehold death case. And then it kind of makes sense, right? Because New York City, you have a Marine veteran who, okay, if you go into the military, there's things about the military, about being a veteran, about being a soldier that kind of get ingrained in you. And these aren't bad things, right? It's things like sticking up for those who can't, right? It's integrity. It's those other things that make good soldiers. They train this guy up to be a good soldier. He was a Marine. He gets out. He's on the subway. This whacked out guy is threatening people and yelling and screaming and carrying on, and people are getting scared. So he intervenes, holds the guy down. The guy later dies. And then now all of a sudden this Good Samaritan, he's on trial for his life, right? And there's a lot of uproar about that. And this is where it is, right? Is if you're in New York City, why would you intervene when the city, even if you do intervene and something happens, the city wants to prosecute you? And to me, that's very sad. It's very sad. I grew up in a time frame. I'm probably a little older than some folks. That I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, and the 90s, and you know, if you saw something happening, I was brought up. I was brought up to help out those folks. Like those folks that were bullied and stuff like that is that's not right, right? You don't pick on the little guy that can't defend themselves. And you have to stick up for those that need that extra protection or whatever, and not let things like that happen. Now, and here's the other part of this, right? So Daniel Penning, he gets up and he's the only one, right? He's the only one defending anybody, and nobody helps him, which is a factor to why this guy ended up dying, right? Is if somebody else had helped him hold this guy down, maybe he wouldn't needed the chokehold. Maybe he could have held him down another way. Maybe not, but you never know. But here's the thing is, people aren't going to get involved nowadays. Why would they? Why would they put their own selves at risks, right? And that's part that I feel in this society is missing now is people would rather just sit on the side and watch whatever's going to happen because the penalty for getting involved is too great, right? Why would you risk yourself for somebody else that you don't know when the propensity of the area that you live in wants to prosecute you for helping if something bad happens, right? What about, remember the Good Samaritan laws, where if somebody was having a medical emergency and you tried to render aid, but you may have accidentally caused an injury, that you were protected from being sued. But do you think that stands now with the current environment? Now, luckily, in 20 days or so, maybe some of this will start to change, and because we'll have a different environment, and they won't be so hot to prosecute Good Samaritans or stuff. But if you think about this now that way, right, is even though there's a law that says you can't be sued for this, do you really trust the courts in our current environment that says, even though that you can't be sued, that they're actually gonna hold up to that? Because let's think about this way, right? Up in the Northeast, you have Mexico suing gun manufacturers, even though there's a federal law that says you can't sue gun manufacturers for third-party incidents when you had no control over the case. But Remington Arms, they paid out a whole bunch of money, and they basically went belly up, I believe, and they were chopped up in little pieces and sold off to other people because of this similar court case, right? They were, well, okay, let's get back. Is the simple fact is people are just sitting around watching stuff happen instead of getting involved. You have the places where they live, like New York, prosecuting them for getting involved. You have laws that are there supposed to protect people or protect companies, but those laws are being bypassed because our current environment. So what does that lead to? That leads to people standing around watching, recording. They'd rather put it on Instagram or YouTube and get some views than actually help out, because by getting views, at least you're not at risk for yourself, right? Because you can't be sued for not intervening. Well, Well, I don't know now. Maybe you can. Maybe that's the next thing, right? Maybe the family of this lady sue all these people that watched for not intervening. I don't know. To me, it's just a messed up scenario because I was brought up to intervene if something happens. When I went in the military, it was ingrained to me. Now, if something were to happen, would I jump in and get involved? I want to say I would have to think about it, but I'm pretty sure my reactionary thing would be to get involved and to stop the situation. But I don't know. Nowadays, you have to think, right? Because are you putting yourself at risk? Are you going to get prosecuted? You know, do you put yourself at further harm's risk by getting involved versus just letting somebody get hurt? I don't know. This is kind of scary where society's going, where crimes can happen right in the middle of everyone and nobody saw anything and nobody wants to do anything about it. Now, what I do know is after reading some of these things about people getting pushed into the subway tracks, off the platforms, people getting set on fire in the subways, people getting prosecuted for getting involved, I certainly wouldn't live in New York or New York City. There ain't no way. So I feel sorry for those people that do, because you are a victim, and you're a victim waiting to be victimized, and that's the way your leaders have set you up. So if you're in one of those places, I feel sorry for you being a victim, because it's gonna happen at some point, and it's your own fault. And that's just sad in this current environment. I'm glad I live here in Arizona, where you can carry your gun and they're not so hot to prosecute Good Samaritans. But with that, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you see society going this way where there's nothing left but to be victimized? Would you get involved? Or would you just have to record and watch and just let it happen because the risk is too big? Let me know what you think. We're out of here for now. Happy New Year. Much love, all.